Now their relative strength is slowly rising versus the S&P 500, but the key word is really slowly.
So Bruno, welcome back. Now, equity markets seemed very quiet in the past 2 weeks. So can you just talk us through what's been happening?
Yeah, good morning, Jessica. Yes, as we see here, we really have not much move between the 2 weeks ago, 21.51, now we are 21.63. We see that small flat range is not helping. However, if we should look below the surface.
So what is below the surface? Can you talk us through what's been happening?
Well, below the surface, you've got the other stock markets, if you wish. The S&P 500 are the big caps, and then you've got the small cap and mid cap. What we have here, the black line is here the Russell 2000, so it's the small cap. It's making higher highs and higher lows. Relative strength is also rising since April. Same thing for the mid cap, which is even making all-time new high and rising relative strength. So it's not, it's really, the breadth is getting a bit larger, so there is big participation.
And so you've mentioned the slight rise there. Are equity markets in Asia, are they also rising?
Well, before we go to equity market in Asia, maybe we can just look at the sector rotation. Here, what we wanted to mention last time is that with the S&P 500 rising, we usually have to get the ratio of aggressive stocks or discretionary stocks versus staples, which are more defensive. We have to have that ratio moving up, and that's still the case. So as we can see, individual, we've got some good signals. Let's, for example, we know that when technology do well, the whole market do well. So what's happening here? We've got the relative strength of technology versus the S&P is making higher high, and we'll see that progression also on the sector itself with a breakup happening. Also, we've got industrials. Okay, industrials has been making basically here a bull flag, a little pause, and then the relative strength is rising again. So that's also positive. In contrast, for example, a defensive sector is like staples. And you see that already since the beginning of July, the relative strength is moving down. And by moving down, that means that there is rotation out of defensive stocks into more aggressive sectors like technology, industrial, as we saw. And finally, we know that a big sector is important, is the financials. And this financial has been on the sideline, if you wish, for a little while. Now their relative strength is slowly rising versus the S&P 500, but the key word is really slowly. It's not happening very fast, and as we see, indeed, like the major market, we see the same kind of flat horizontal consolidation here.
And it's very slow and steady indeed. So is this rise, is this the same for Asian equities?
Well, Asia is a little bit on another register. What's really happened is the following. The yen has been, the yen strength has been declining. That means the dollar yen has been moving up, and that has helped basically the Nikkei move up and break above the clouds here. Because there was some declaration popping up yesterday and being reflected today in the market has taken some profit and is back again above 16,600 this morning. So it's almost as it was a non-event, and the uptrend should resume relatively nicely. But it's not leading very much. It's not leading, as we see here. The Nikkei versus the S&P is coming down. It's making a little pause. So it's just following what the S&P is doing.
And can you talk us through what's been going on in Europe? What's been happening with the markets there?
In Europe, nothing is happening. We see here a very small range and consolidation. Okay, it is relatively bullish because it makes higher highs and higher lows, and it breaks above the cloud. Relative strength is trying to break its downtrend line, but we still have no signal yet.
So there's not been much happening in Europe. What about emerging markets?
Emerging market, no, nothing happened. Why nothing happened, or why is it quiet? Because oil has been consolidating in the last 2 weeks. So we see the relative strength of, for example, Brazil versus the S&P 500 is flat, and also flat versus the other emerging markets. That was in contrast to the good performance we had last month. So it's probably just the summer doldrums.
And you mentioned oil slightly there, so how's gold been faring so far?
Well, if everything was good, that means that people should not be afraid and people would be taking profit on gold, and that's basically what has happened since 1377. It moved all the way down to 1310. But we see 1310 is this former high at 1306, and it's also corresponding to the rising support. So basically we are at support. We do not have a new signal saying gold should go much lower and signal that it is risk off for equity. Here it's just waiting for a signal. So here we also have to be patient a little bit. And probably when we look at interest rate, we mentioned 2 weeks ago, that's the key element, and we should see rising rates in order to help the financials to move up on a relative strength. Unfortunately, in the last 2 weeks, nothing has happened. We are just at the same level. So probably we better enjoy the summer.
Fantastic. Well, Bruno, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your insights.
You're welcome.
That's all for myself and Bruno, but if you did like this interview, do like and comment on Dukascopy.tv.